Good morning. I'm a couple minutes late today. But I remembered to post the schedule for this morning, so proud of myself for that. We're going to continue reading Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. We're on chapter 5. Page 43. I used to have this one bad dream. I was trapped in a room deep under the earth. The room was glass, so I could see the dirt on every side, pressing against the walls. The dream was always the same. First, I would get bored, and then I would get nervous, and then, at last, I would get scared. Sometimes I would bang on the walls, and sometimes I would sit perfectly still, but every time, no matter what I did, a crack would form in the glass. The crack would spread and spread up the walls and overhead until bits of dirt came through, and then, just as the ceiling shattered, I'd wake up. I haven't thought of that dream in years, but I think about it now. The spiral stairs are a tight coil, so we can't see more than a full turn at a time, and they just keep going and going and going. How far down are the catacombs? I ask, fighting to keep the fear out of my voice. About 5 stories, says Dad, and I try not to think about the fact that the Hotel Velour is only 4 stories tall. Why would you put a graveyard underground? I ask. The catacombs weren't always used as a graveyard, explains Dad. Before they became an ossuary, the tunnels were simply stone quarries that ran beneath the growing city. What's an ossuary? I ask. It's a place where the bones of the dead are stored. Jacob and I exchange a look. What happens to the rest of them? Mom chuckles. It doesn't make me feel any better. The bodies in the catacombs were transferred here from other graves, explains Pauline. Transferred, meaning dug up. Oh, I do not like this, says Jacob. I do not like this at all. Today, says Dad, the catacombs are home to more than 6 million bodies. I nearly trip on the steps. I must have heard him wrong. That's 3 times the living population of Paris, adds Mom cheerfully. I feel a little queasy. Jacob glowers at me as if to say, "This is your fault." We finally reach the bottom of the stairs, and the veil washes up around me like a tide, dragging at my limbs. I push back, trying to keep my footing as Jacob draws closer. "We are not crossing here," he says, all the humor gone from his voice. "Do you hear me, Cass? We are not crossing here." He doesn't have to tell me. I have no desire to find out what's on the other side of this particular veil, especially when I see what's ahead of us. I'd been hoping for a large space, like one of those giant caves with stalactites? Stalagmites? I can never remember which is which. But instead, there is only a tunnel. The ground is a mix of rough stone and packed dirt, and the walls look dug by hand. Here and there, water drips from the low ceiling. Electric lights have been spaced out, casting dim yellow pools among patches of shadow. "Well, this is cozy," says Mom. I swallow hard as we start walking. The only way out is through, I tell myself. Or, back up those stairs, says Jacob. Come on, I think. Where's your sense of adventure? I must have left it up at street level, he mutters. Mom and Dad walk on ahead, narrating for the cameras. I glance over at Pauline, who's focused on where she's stepping, careful to avoid the shallow pools of water, the muddy dirt patches between stones. I lean toward her and whisper, "I expected more bones." "We haven't made it to the tombs yet," she explains, her voice echoing off the low ceiling. "These are only the galleries. relics from the days when these tunnels served less grim purposes. The tunnel twists and turns, sometimes wide enough for two people, and sometimes so narrow we have to walk single file. The veil presses against my back like a hand, urging me forward. You know the only thing worse than a haunted place? Asked Jacob. What? One you can't easily leave. You don't know it's haunted, I think, sounding thoroughly unconvinced. How can it not be? He counters. Have you forgotten George Mackenzie? George Mackenzie was one of the ghosts in a cemetery back in Scotland. He didn't start haunting the graveyard until some vandals disturbed his bones. That was one man. Maybe the stories are wrong. Maybe he was already restless. And maybe they're all friendly ghosts down here, says Jacob. Just having a grand old time. Mom pulls out a small box, its surface studded with lights, an EMF meter, a tool meant to register disturbances in the electromagnetic force, also known as ghosts. She switches it on, but the meter only registers a muffled static as she lets it trail over the wall. We reach the end of the galleries, and the tunnel opens into a chamber, the walls lined with glass cases, like in a museum. The glass cases hold text and pictures explaining how the catacombs came to be, but the thing that catches my eye is the doorway on the other side. A stone mantle looms over it, the words carved in bold French type. Arrêtez, c'est ici l'Empire de la Mort. Stop, recites Dad, his voice bouncing off the close stone walls. This here is the Empire of the Dead. Not ominous, mutters Jacob. Not ominous at all. In the 1700s, continues Dad, addressing Annette's camera, Paris had a problem. The dead outnumbered the living, and the living had no place to put them. The graveyards were overflowing, sometimes literally, and something had to be done. And so the conversion of the catacombs began. It would take 2 whole years, says Mom, to move the bodies of the dead. Imagine a nightly procession of corpse-filled wagons rattling through the streets as 6 million dead were ferried from their resting places into the tunnels beneath Paris. It's so weird watching them like this, the way they transform in front of the camera. They don't become different people. They just become sharper, louder, more colorful. The same song with the volume turned up. Dad, the image of a scholar. Mom, the picture of a dreamer. Together, the inspectors look larger than life. I snap a photo of them being filmed as Dad goes on. For decades, he says, the bones of the dead littered these tunnel floors, the remains piled haphazardly throughout the vast tomb. It wasn't until an engineer by the name of Louis Etienne Ericard decided to convert the grave into a place for visitors that the real transformation began and the Empire of the Dead was formed. Mom gestures like a showman pulling back a curtain. Shall we go in? I think I'll wait here, says Jacob, suddenly fascinated by the glass cases. Suit yourself, I think. I follow the crew forward without looking back, and even though I can't hear Jacob's steps, I know he's there, on my heels, close as a shadow as we step through into a world of bones. Chapter 6. Hi, Abigail. The bones are everywhere. They line the dirt walls, a sea of skeletons rising almost to the ceiling. They form patterns, rippling designs, a wave of skulls set on a backdrop of femurs. The morbid decorations stacked as high as I can see. Empty eye sockets stare out, and jaws hang open. Some of the bones are broken, crumbling, and others look startlingly fresh. If you squint hard enough, the pieces disappear, and you're left with a pattern of wavering grays that could be stone instead of bone. Our shadows dance on the walls, and I take photo after photo, knowing the camera will only capture what's here, only see the real. But right now, the real is strange enough. Strange and chilling and almost beautiful. And horrifying, says Jacob. Don't forget horrifying. We round a corner, and as if on cue, the EMF meter in Mom's hand erupts from static into a high-pitched whine that echoes through the tunnels like a scream. Mom jumps and quickly switches the unit back off. Well, she says, her voice a little shaky, I think that says enough. I shiver, unsettled. Even Pauline is looking tense. Gee, what could possibly be making her nervous, muses Jacob. Is it the fact we're 5 stories underground? Or that this tunnel is roughly the size of a coffin? Or could it be the fact we're surrounded by 6 million bodies? 6 million. It's a number so big, it doesn't seem real. 270. That's a better number. Still a lot, but countable. 270 is the number of bones you have when you're born. Some of them fuse together as you grow, so by the time you're an adult, you have 206. Thanks, science class. So if the catacombs are home to more than 6 million bodies, how many bones? 6 million times 206 is a lot. Too many to capture in a photo. But picture this. It's enough bones to stack 5 feet high throughout every one of the tunnels under Paris, an empire of the dead as large as the city, the bodies unmarked and unknown. Jacob begins to sing, and it takes me a solid 30 seconds to realize what he's singing. The foot bone's connected to the leg bone's connected to the knee bone. Are you serious? I whisper. He throws up his hands, just trying to have a sense of humor about this. We wind our way through the tunnels, the locked iron gates converting the maze around us into a clear path. I wonder how easy it would be to get lost without those doors. Do you see this line overhead? Asks Dad, the question directed at the cameras as much as us. I stare up and see a thick black mark painted on the ceiling. Back before they installed lights and gates, that was the only way to keep people from getting lost. I try to imagine coming down here before there was electricity, armed with just lanterns or candles. I shudder. The only thing that would make this place creepier would be being down here in the dark. Mom turns to the camera. Over the years, she says, more than a few travelers have wandered down into these tunnels to seek shelter, perhaps, or simply to explore, only to get lost amid the many halls. Many never found their way out again, at least not while they were still alive. The veil leans heavy on my shoulders, urging me to cross over, but I manage to hold my ground. I feel like I'm the glass box in my dream, the world pressing in from every side, but I don't crack. There's no question Jacob is getting stronger. Maybe I am too. Over here, calls Dad, his voice echoing, here, here, here. The bone walls are interrupted every so often by stone plaques, their surfaces carved with quotes about life and death. Dad stops in front of one, and Pauline and I hang back so our shadows don't cross into the camera shot. I glance sideways and nearly jump out of my skin when a skull stares back, its empty sockets at eye level. Before I can think, I'm reaching out to touch the bleached white bone and, all at once, the veil bristles, rising to my fingertips. As it does, I hear the muffled sound of voices beyond, sad and lonely and lost. Someone is calling out, and I can almost hear the words. I lean closer. Hello? Calls a voice from the shadows, sounding scared. I look around, but no one else seems to hear it. My parents walk on, and Pauline looks straight ahead. Cassidy, hisses Jacob. Don't. My hand falls away, but I can still feel the veil sliding through my fingers like silk. S'il vous plaît, comes another voice, From the shadows, this one speaking French, the words thin and high and faint. No one is coming, murmurs a third, and then a fourth voice. Help! The shout is so sudden and loud that I scramble backward. My heel catches on a bit of rock on the ground and I stumble, unsteady. I reach out to catch myself, but this time, when my hand hits the wall, it keeps going, as if the surface is made of cloth instead of bone. No, 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 I think, as the veil parts beneath my fingers and I fall down and through. A short, sharp drop, a shock of cold, the taste of the river in my throat, and then I'm on my hands and knees on the hard stone floor. Pain scrapes across my palms, and my camera swings from the strap around my neck. The tunnel is dark, and I blink my eyes rapidly, willing them to adjust. The only light I can see is the one coming from my own chest. The blue-white glow shines brightly, but only as far as my shirt. Not exactly a human flashlight, more like a human firefly. I get to my feet, pulling the mirror from my back pocket. Jacob? I whisper, but there's no answer. As my eyes adjust, I realize there's another light, low and red, coming from around the corner. It reminds me of the light I use in my darkroom back home when I'm developing film. I start toward it, and then I hear a small sound like pebbles moving or feet shuffling over dirt, and the red light shrinks away. Hello? I call, walking faster. But by the time I round the corner, the crimson light is gone, replaced by an old-fashioned lantern sitting on the ground. It throws off an unsteady yellow glow and casts shadows on the surrounding skulls, so it looks like they're grinning, scowling, shocked. I realize then how quiet the tunnel is, how empty. I heard the ghosts, didn't I? So where are they now? Something moves behind me in the dark. I can feel it. My hand tightens on the pendant, and I'm working up the nerve to turn around when I hear the voice. Cassidy. Jacob. I sag with relief and I turn, only to find his face sharp, angry. I thought we agreed not to do this, he says, arms folded tight across his chest. I didn't want to, I say. I swear. Whatever, he says. Let's just go before something... A pebble skitters across the stone floor behind us. Did you hear that? I ask. Could be the bones settling, he says, or the wind. But there's no wind down here, and we both know it wasn't the bones, especially when the next sound is the crunch of feet. Someone else is here. I start forward, but Jacob catches my hand. We have no map, he warns me. He's right. Space is space. A step in the veil is a step on the other side. If we wander too far away from my parents and the crew, I could end up lost in the real world too, trapped in this maze. And then a playful young voice, somewhere in the distance, calls out in French, Un, deux, trois. Nope, says Jacob. He's already pulling me backward, already reaching for the curtain. Wait, I say, trying to twist free as the voice calls again. But Jacob tightens his grip. Look, he says, I get it. You can't help yourself. It's your nature, your purpose, whatever. You have to look under the bed, open the closet, peek behind the curtain. But have a little common sense, Cass. We are 50 feet underground, surrounded by bones with only a lantern for light, and I'm officially invoking Rule 21 of friendship, and we are leaving right now, together. He's right. I sigh and nod. Okay, let's go. Jacob exhales with relief and grabs the curtain. The veil ripples and parts, and I follow him through. But at the last second, before the veil is swept away, I look back into the tunnel, and I swear I see a shadow moving along the wall, its edges glowing red. But then the veil is gone, and I'm falling, ice water in my lungs, before the world shatters back into focus, solid again, the lights bright. I hear the sounds of the camera crew packing up and Pauline's high heels clicking on the rock floor, and my parents' voices moving toward me. I'm on my knees on the grimy stones, but I hurriedly bring the camera's viewfinder to my eye. I snap a photo, an arch of skulls around a gravestone, the second before Mom rounds the corner. Cassidy, she says, exasperated. I found her, she calls back over her shoulder. I manage a weak smile. I was just taking some pictures, I say, my voice a little shaky, my hands and knees slick with dirt. For the show. Too close, Cass, says Jacob. He leans moodily back against the wall, or at least he starts to. At the first brush of bone, he jumps away, shuddering in disgust. Mom studies me for a moment, then nods. I admire your dedication, dear daughter, she says, patting my hair, but next time stay where we can see you. I'll try, I say as she kisses my head and pulls me to my feet. As I follow her down the tunnel, I can't help but look back into the darkness, half expecting to see the red light dancing along the wall. But all I see is darkness, shadows falling over bones. Ooh, that's the end of part 1. So next is part 2, Mischief Maker, which we'll pick up. Monday's a holiday. Bye, Abigail. Monday's a holiday, and the library is closed. But I want to keep reading. I might still do a reading Monday morning, just to keep us going along. And if you are doing some sort of holiday activity, maybe you can catch up and watch it later if you wanted to see it live. I'll think about it. I'll be sure and post by Sunday evening whether it's going to be live on Monday morning or whether I'm going to wait until Wednesday. We'll see. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.